Hello and welcome to the Inner Gamer On. My name is Brett Yanofsky.
I'm Austin Morales.
I'm Devin Duree.
What's up, guys?
Hey,
Happy April Fool's Day.
I'm not even here. That's my April Fool's joke.
April Fool! No, I'm just kidding. It's April Fool's.
What if I did just like force projection out of here? Just
Right.
disappeared like Luke Skywalker.
Here,
Dude, that'd be crazy.
Yeah.
What the fuck? That's so weird. That's so weird.
And then you put me back in.
Oh,
Oh! What happened? No.
Today we're going to talk about something very it's not super like happy. It's kind of sad, but there's some happy moments to it and there's some lessons to be learned from this.
yeah.
But today we're going to be talking about what kinds of things can make an experimental indie game succeed, or in general, what can indie games do from 2018 onward to succeed, because the current space of indie games has changed drastically in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
The reason why this subject came up is that Jonathan Nordhagen, a good contact of ours, just recently released his game Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. He was formerly the lead developer on Gone Home. That was the huge commercial success back in 2013 that just blew everybody away and was like,
I think a whole year no one
Yeah.
can stop talking about it.
right, yeah,
It was all about Gone
amazing.
Home and the impact of Gone Home. And man, what a completely transcendent game that completely broke the mold as far as video games.
Storytelling.
That basically created the
Well,
walking
yeah.
simulator.
Yeah.
Like that was
Yeah.
was
Well, I mean,
the
it kind
first
of brought
one.
it back. It was already a thing, wasn't it?
no, this was the first. Well, I mean, Myst was Myst. I
You know,
guess
well,
was.
Myst,
yeah.
well, yeah,
To a
Myst
degree.
really falls in, like, it's first person. It really falls into a puzzler, but you really, Myst, you don't walk around. You move
Right.
from stagnant position to stagnant
Exactly.
position.
Yeah, I think Gone Home was the first commercial successful walking simulator, and it made the term walking simulator a thing.
Yeah.
Before that, nobody said anything related to walking simulator, but now it's like that's a genre,
Yeah.
essentially. So, so Where the Water Tastes Like Wine came out, and Yoneman posted a Medium post about his post-mortem of the game,
Yeah.
and basically said that, in his words, Where the Water Tastes Like Wine was an extremely ambitious game, but at the end of the day, it was a, quote, commercial disaster. So
Oh, that hurts my soul.
it does hurt, because
That
like
hurts-
we've been
that
so
hurts
excited
so
about this
bad.
game for so
That hurts
long.
me. Yeah.
So, given the climate of everything, indie games is such a big thing right now, right? Like,
Yeah.
more than
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
I feel like at this point, this would be successful.
Yeah,
You
you
know?
think? Yeah,
Look at all the indie games now that are successful. Celeste, out of nowhere, blew up.
yeah.
Indie game, huge success. What
Yeah.
happened?
So let's talk a little bit first about what he put in this article. So like give his perspective on it, and then we'll go into kind of our thoughts and explore that mindset with everything. So in the article, he wrote about the good and the bad things of the game. So to summarize in a nutshell, on the good side of things, he was very proud of the fact that he got a huge, diverse array of writers from different backgrounds, different histories, all these things that
Yeah.
really put a lot of passion into writing the different elements of the game.
And a lot of those writers having different educational backgrounds as far as how they learned
yeah,
things about that industrialized American folklore
right.
era.
Yeah, yeah, and so for those that don't know, Where the Water Tastes Like Wine is an American folktale, and it's told. There's 16 different writers that wrote this game, and
Yeah.
it's told. It's basically trekking across the United States, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah, kind of
And,
during the Depression era.
During the Depression era, yeah, it has a very unique art style, and that's another thing that he was really proud of is the art style. He had
Yeah.
hired some artists that literally, it looks like, to me, it looks like an interactive comic book when you're looking at the art and everything. Very, very good looking art.
Like a much cleaner version of like early Telltale style visuals.
Yeah,
Very big color palette too. Oh,
yeah. And then he had his music. He was very proud of his music. He hired a composer that worked on music like blues and jazz and folk music and all these different types of sounds that were built into this game. And then just the success that he got from like shows and trade shows and things like that, because he he was at places like the Mix LA, which is we met him there. We saw him there. We saw him at South by Southwest.
Yep.
He did a bunch of places, and like a lot of early writings were written about this game, and like this is super innovative and new and different.
I vividly recall my experience of getting to meet him, talk with him, see the insightful shit he was saying to me about all these incredible elements in his game, and then getting to play it, which was even more incredible. I sat there with that controller in my hand and my headphones on, and from the moment I heard that first bluegrass banjo strum, I was like, I'm in. Fuck, I'm sold. I want this game so damn bad.
Yeah. So
I thought it was going to be like an instant success.
Yeah. So that's kind of all the pros of this game. Now let's talk about, in his mind, like what he wrote in this article were the cons. And if you go to medium.com, search for Where the Water Tastes Like Wine post-mortem, you can find this article. But ultimately it comes down to a few things. One, I think the way he said it, he took on too ambitious of a project for a person that had not built his own game before.
Yeah.
So like he didn't understand anything regarding the business side of things. He didn't know much about, like he took on a game that he thought he could handle, but he wasn't an artist. He was a programmer. He wasn't a writer. So he learned all these things that were so heavy on like things that he didn't really have this like as much skills in as that. I mean, that he thought he could work on. And then he also had he said that testing was something that they didn't spend enough time on. Like
testing was a real big roadblock for him, because you think, I mean, as he mentions, you want to play test your game from start to finish, and not just from start to finish, but every nook and cranny from start to finish. His game's 10 to 20 hours long, depending on what you do. And I mean, man.
Yeah.
For someone up against a time crunch like he was, budgetary issues, some other hurdles that were just really
4 years in development.
Man. Getting accurate play
testing
tests.
These AAA titles, they're like 60 hours long.
Oh my gosh.
Play The Witcher from start to finish and get everything in there and tell us what's messed up.
And then play it 4 more times.
You have till tomorrow.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. And he said the big thing they focused on was like functional issues and stuff like that. So like, did this thing break or did this shut down or whatever?
Yeah.
But like,
did this cause the game to crash?
Yeah. What he didn't look as much into is pacing and repetitiveness and things that aren't bugs. They are just design concerns. So there was that, and then the fact that he lost 2 of his artists. Right? It was
lost 2 artists like at the same time. Like, you want to talk about timing, especially when you're like doing something as daunting as making a video game, which is always against a time crunch and a budget constraint.
Right.
Holy shit. Like 2 artists at like you're kind of dead on arrival at that point. From a number of other like video game industries. Like, if you can think of 2 main artists from like Destiny bouncing out at the same time, your game's done. You're done.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, yeah. I don't know what that, when you say artists, like what that actually entails. Because I mean, you could just find more artists, right? Because Bungie has a general. I'm thinking of like general, like just graphic designing the actual characters and models and stuff like that. This is literally art. Like all of it is art.
It is like actual painting shit on a wall style art. You can't replicate that from just finding another person to do that same kind of art style.
Yeah,
it's very unique.
Just finding artists in general that are like good. I mean, regardless of the type of art that they're making or the type of designs that they're working on, finding somebody that one is willing to work on your project, that they're excited about the project, and it's not just a job for them. Because for this, like, he needs people that they are passionate about the project, not just doing it because they're paying him.
Right? Exactly.
Like, you need somebody that's got like that, like is like, this is something that I'm really pumped about. So that cuts out half of your audience probably. Because some guys out there just want to work for a paycheck, but those aren't the people that are going to put their passion and best work into the job. So that's a concern for sure. But the other thing he mentioned was 2018, the fact that it just released in 2018 or 2017. Was it 2018?
2017.
Okay. Yeah. So it just came out at the wrong time. Which is true, because like when Gone Home finished, like that's when we talked about at the beginning. When that finished, it was there wasn't any games out there, hardly at all. Like you had Bastion, you had Braid, probably, you had Super Meat Boy, Fez, I believe, just came out roughly around that time. Like there was just a select few titles. You're like, these are indie games that are really cool.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, bam, it's just blown up from there. Unity became more accessible. It's like super easy to build in Unity now. Everybody
Yeah.
learned how to build in Unity. So
Well, and you
that's
also think
happening.
about from a topical standpoint, like games being released at a certain time are very topical, or not even topical, but just being in a certain trend era. We've talked about it at times how we felt like we were flooded with these third person shooters for a while, and then the industry kind of morphed and moved over to a bunch of we're going to play a shitload of RPGs, like all these different RPGs that you're
Open
just
world RPG.
open world RPGs that you are just it's daunting to look at all the different things you can play. And I don't necessarily know if 2017, yeah, I can say that 2017, the time that this was released, we're talking about when indie games have now stepped away from being a really cool kind of niche following to now, like, you can stack indie right up next to AAA games. And
Do it again. Do it again. Do you look person? Is any game?
this is indie games. Okay, that's fair. I mean, I would say that. But I mean, I don't necessarily want to say that the market was flooded with different indie games, but maybe this was something that was slightly missed. And this kind of goes to one of my points about this game specifically. And I mean, nothing against Yoneman for the game that he made, because when I got to play it at South by, I was absolutely blown away. I just don't have a PC. To me, it was I feel like a big struggle here is accessibility. And you guys know this, I haven't shut up about indie games I've been playing on my Switch. Do you know why? Because it's easy to get games on the Switch. I spend $20-$25 at most, and I get an amazing game on my Switch that I can't shut up about for weeks at a time. And the Switch is what, $300, as opposed to a $1,000 to $2,000 machine, depending on how good you want it to be.
Yeah.
I kind of would have loved to have played this game, but I didn't have the PC. I didn't have access to it.
Yeah. And think about it, like, back when that came out, when he started this game, like I'm sure the plan, and with a lot of these games that are coming out now that have been developed for 3-4 years, they're coming to PC because back when you started it, PC was the only market that would that would easily allow you to publish an indie game. Like, it wasn't until the last couple of years that PS4 and Xbox started doing a lot of push for getting new indie games on the market, and the Switch just came out last year. So nobody knew before 2 years ago that the Switch was even a thing that could support indie games. They didn't have that mindset in their head.
Right.
So for the fact
That's
that
fair.
like he thought when he built this game that it was going to be a 2-year development cycle, instead it took him 4 years to develop.
Yeah.
4 years, a lot has happened. Like, think about that. Like, if you started college when he started this game, you would be out of college and have a degree.
Yeah, I finished college in 4 years.
Or if
Shut up and move on.
normal people, just kidding.
Shut up and move on.
But so like that's another thing that I just thought about is that whenever Gone Home came out, and then all the games that were coming out in 2013 or whatever, that was, I feel like, a shifting point where games for the last several years have just been becoming more and more mainstream over time. And if you think about 4 years ago, there may have been X number of people that were getting into school to learn about game design, and now they're out, or they've been out for 4 years in this period of time. So like the people that were training during those earlier developmental years are now out making their own games too. So like they're producing stuff like crazy, and like school programs, they make you make a game. So those things are coming out. So there's so many more avenues for people to develop a game now.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. I mean, unless you have, I feel like nowadays you really need to, but there's also so many games that are being developed by one person, which is crazy to me that they're able to produce the level of quality they do as a guy. Like what's that game that we played with the Fox that's from Finji Studios at PAX? Tunic. It's one guy making that game.
Yeah.
And it's gorgeous and it's
Yeah.
like incredible. And like that's insanely mind-blowing to me. But
People taking on these absolutely just ludicrous amounts of work by themselves
yeah.
to make one game
Yeah.
that looks at the caliber of a whole team making it.
Right. Yeah, so it's a tough market.
I mean, back to your point about it being on Steam, which I totally agree with. If it was on other consoles, it would definitely see more success.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I feel like with Steam, there's so many indie games on there that do get commercial success just being on Steam. And I really don't know what the ratio between console and PC players are, but I just feel like this is going to be one of those games like Picasso or whatever. We look back on in like 10 years and like, oh, this is like, do you guys play this game? It's like 10 years old, but it's so good. And like spurs a revolution in gaming or something like that. But it's just, I don't know. It just doesn't, it kind of boggles my mind why it's not a success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it really does. Like everything. I mean, you read the article. They did a lot of things right. They have a lot of good things going for them. A lot of people recognized their game and said it was, one way or another, sort of revolutionary in the way it's telling its story and how it's presenting it. But I'm just trying to think back on what do normal gamers want? Why are these other games more appealing? And yes, it does happen to be with the time. If we talked about it, the market is flooded with indie games, but at the same time, that hasn't changed some of these games being a success at the same time.
Right.
Other people have thrived on that,
So I think I know what you're talking about, and I think a lot of the reasons for that is I was talking to Devin about this before we started the podcast and everything, is that like this game is for a niche audience. Like if you are under the age of 25, your understanding of American folklore of any kind, unless you sat there and listened to your grandpa tell you about these stories of the Depression and stuff like that, it's probably
foreign to you. Very minimal.
We
like
know
you probably
about,
learned a little bit in school about the Depression and what it meant.
We know a lot about World War II because all the games have made stuff about World War II for years and years and years. But this area of history hasn't really been touched on in any way. And so to most people, if you say this is an American folktale, they might not even know what that means. And like for me, having an understanding of what this game is, I still don't know exactly how it plays. And I think gameplay is a big part of a game selling, especially in any game, because like What Remains of Edith Finch was so successful, I think, in the fact that not only did it have a good, interesting story, but it took the idea of the walking simulator and spin it on its head, and that it had really interesting gameplay mechanics to it. So that was something that people could talk about. So if they weren't interested in the story necessarily, they were intrigued by the gameplay elements that came through here. The fact that you could fly through the air and you could swim in the water and you could do all these different kind of gameplay mechanics.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things that may have hurt it. And the other thing is I kind of put this game in the realm of like a Telltale kind of game. And even though you move around and stuff like that, ultimately it's an adventure game telling a story. It's not a point and click adventure, but
I was going to say it's very much like a point and click adventure-esque that I would really more put into more like a dialogue centric game.
Yeah. So the reason why, like, if you look at Telltale's like library of games, they would never have been a success had it not been for licensed properties that they made their games about.
They were able to get them. They were able,
Batman,
Walking Dead,
all these things.
Borderlands, Fables, all of these big hitting mediums that people know and love, and they're easily identifiable.
Yeah.
While Where the Water Tastes Like Wine,
nobody knows that story.
Like you're talking about an indie game on PC only for people who love American folklore. Man, we're getting into some niche audiences here.
But
which is a shame because I think a game like this is incredible. It needs to be played because it gives attention to an era of our American history.
Right.
That like that's something it's so brilliant to make a game for that time period.
Yeah.
But just getting the tension to it.
So
Yeah.
would you say that just comparing it to Hollow Knight, obviously it's not in the same gameplay mechanics or whatever, but or just having a game that you have to learn its history and background, you think that's more appealing than this is something that you should know because it's American history? That suspension of disbelief is a little easier to jump into than taking like, oh, this is like real life. Like
maybe. I mean, I think that kind of harkens back to people's just personal preferences in playing video games.
Right.
Because, there are some people who are going to look at things like Hollow Knight and go, oh, that's a very Souls-like game. It's difficult. It's hack and slash.
It's a fun game to play.
It's a fun game to play.
Yeah.
While there are people kind of like myself who do like those experiential, very story-driven, very almost investigatory style gameplay as far as the dialogue is concerned, which is kind of how he centered the mechanics of his game, is all those dialogue choices. I love that, but there are people who look at that and go, "That's boring as shit. I don't want to do that.
Right.
I don't want to play that. I don't want to
Right.
sit here and read a whole bunch of text boxes."
Yeah. And I'm in that boat. Like, I don't like reading a lot, but I think this game, I like games that tell me a story that I don't spend a lot of time on, like, or that I don't have to put a lot of thinking into. Like, I just want to like learn and get educated from that. That's why I like the Telltale games when I play them, is because I can kind of sit there and just like pay attention to the story, but not have to be always, except for the last Guardians of the Galaxy, where they like throw quick time events in you as they're doing like a 5-hour long cutscene. Piss me off. But with this game, I think, I really feel that this could have, I think a lot of this is in the messaging of the game. Like, this could have, because it's so hard to get games out there now, if you don't have like Celeste, I think got really popular because it was fucking hard. And people that like hard games talk about how hard it is to their friends because, I mean, in a way it's kind of like bragging rights. And another way it's just that, hey, this game is super hard. You should try it out because this is a game.
And I think
like,
that
really
also, like,
of a game.
Games like Celeste also got a lot of attention because of the subject matter.
So yeah, exactly.
That mental health.
Yeah. And that's a hot topic right now.
That's huge right now.
Yeah.
That is huge right now.
So yeah, and like history, like nobody jumps on to like the history bandwagon, but I think
who wants to play a game about history?
Yeah, but I think where the water
Let's learn
tastes
about the
like
Louisiana
wine,
Purchase. Huh?
I wonder if this game would have like done. So let's talk a little bit about things that could have been done better, or just ideas that may have like brought it more light. And this can apply to everything. It's not just this game, but this is just kind of our baseline that we're working off of here. But I think like a comic book series or something that was released out on the web leading up to the release of this game could have maybe sparked some interest. Like, here's one of the stories released in a comic book form. It's very digestible. It's free. Check it out. For more, go play this game. Or, a short animated like, how like Overwatch, when they announce their new characters and stuff, they sometimes do those animated shorts. Like, do an animated version of that, telling one of the stories, just a teaser of a story, and leading that into it. Like, maybe that could have, sparked some interest and like attracted people from a different avenue.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of interesting to me.
For me, I know that he had a lot of troubles with the whole mouse and keyboard from the PC standpoint, but just, man, if I could have played this on a console of some kind, I really feel like this could have.
I bet this could still see a lot of success if they can bring it to a console.
If
somehow.
you can't, like if they can manage to bring it to console, I think you could see
They are with Serenity Forge. So
yeah, that's what I was wondering. So I
have a
wonder if they're gonna be able to
decent backing
pull that.
if they want to actually do that.
God, I hope so. I hope so.
If
I
they brought it to
really
the
would.
Switch, it might see
I
some
will literally
success.
buy it on all my consoles just so I can say that I've bought it 3 times, and I will preach it to the masses. Everyone, buy this game right the fuck now.
I agree. So,
And if you're watching this and you have a PC, go buy it.
yeah. So this isn't the only game out there that's had situations like this.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of them out there that have run into issues related to this. Like, I mean, everybody we talked to at South by Southwest, like in some form or fashion, they were like, yeah, I'm not getting a lot of sales, not getting what we wanted. Like it's hard. It's hard to reach an audience, and there's got to be people like us out there. These because I mean, in a way, we're what do you call it?
Curators.
We are curators. Yeah, we're curators that are no, there's another word. It is that on that. It's a C word. I'm trying to think what it is, because you have the creators, you have the, like, I guess we're brand ambassadors in a way. I don't know, but yeah, curators is good word.
Brand-
for it.
Branding bastards.
No, brand ambassadors.
Whoa.
Brand ambassadors. I thought you said
Brand
I
ambassadors.
thought brand ambassadors. I was like, I don't know what
Yeah.
that is.
No,
Is that a new
yeah.
term?
Brand ambassadors.
A brand ambassador is somebody
Yeah.
who is like a super fan, like a Star
gotcha.
Wars fan who like loves something so much that
Yeah,
basically they
we
market the
provide a
thing for them.
platform.
Yeah,
You know, we are the ones in the mix that we're talking with a lot of these devs, and we get to learn about not just the game, but we get to learn about them, and we champion out these games
Yeah.
that we're like, man, people need to get their eyes on these. And I mean, I don't know if I helped the sales of Celeste at all. I hope I did.
yeah,
But that's I want this game to succeed so bad.
Yeah, because it's funny. I feel like a lot of games we've been playing like have become successful, you know? And yeah, I think most of them early on were already successful us going, but it's hard to see this now when they should be. Just like Aegis. We got to talk to them at South by Southwest, and they said they are making sales, but they aren't to the point. He put it, Bryce put it, the guy who created the game was like, we cannot make another game right now with the sales we have. And it's just like, what? If you don't know what Aegis Defender is, go. It's on Steam and it's on the Switch. Check it out. It is a platformer with what do you call it?
tower defense
Tower
elements.
defense elements.
Yeah,
It's just sad to see this, and it's just
You know,
like you have a good game.
Yeah.
Great. Like everything is right for
Yeah.
it, and it feels like it would thrive in this environment,
Yeah.
regardless of the flooded market.
Yeah,
but-
and I know that this is just kind of the nature of the beast with indie games. Just and with AAA titles as well. Not as bad with them, but with indie titles, and indie developers, there's just so much more riding on the line because
yeah.
it's their personal stake of a lot of their own money, a lot of their personal time, a lot of their personal time.
So the viewers, you guys don't really get to see this, but we get to talk to these guys.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh man.
It's
Oh, man.
you're delving into somebody's world who wants to have video games be their source of income, and because it's their life, and we all play video games and we all enjoy them, and you're watching somebody pour blood, sweat, and tears into making a game, and to not see the fruits of that labor is crushing.
Yeah.
I can only imagine just how crushing that would be.
it's tough.
That's
It's
tough.
really tough. So I think that's going to wrap up our discussion topic.
Ugh.
We talked a lot about that.
Sad note.
I'm so sad.
Yeah. So again, the moral of the story of this is expand your palette. I feel like
Yeah.
if you know, a lot of our listeners, you know, I mean, not everybody has time to play all the games in the world.
No.
But like, you know, there's these big, like for me as a gamer, the way I look at it is I could be playing a game like Far Cry 5 and all these games that require hundreds of hours of my time, or I can instead spend the same amount of money and buy 4 indie titles that take up 15 hours of that time.
Yeah.
And you're reaching more people and helping more developers that need to get exposure and stuff like that. And I think that's something worth kind of looking into. So be conscious of like those things out there. If you see someone that's like, it's $10 and it's getting some good reviews, I mean, pick it up and give it a try, because you never know what you're going to run into. Like I had no idea that I would love Night in the Woods as much as I did. And that game just absolutely blew my mind. And earlier in this podcast, you heard about Florence. Like that game is fantastic. There's all these games, whether they're super small experiences or big experiences, that really are treasures. And I feel
like the last probably month and a half, I've done nothing but talk about
Yeah.
Games.
indie games on the Switch.
they make more of an impact than like Far Cry 5 is fun, but I'm not going to remember it 10 years from now.
Especially when
Like,
you're doing bonker shit like going to the moon and blowing zombies up or whatever
Yeah.
the fuck they're doing.
Exactly. So, anyway, If you have a discussion topic that you want to hear us talk about, you can email us at hello@theinnergamer.net. Also, make sure you head over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/theinnergamer, for all of our discussion topics, broken up into pieces, segments, all that stuff. So we definitely want you to check that out. If you are watching this, actually, if you're watching, don't forget to head over to theinnergamer.net. Catch our full podcast episode every Tuesday for our weekly game impressions and top headlines from the week. If you like this video, like and subscribe to keep up with all the latest video games right here.
You look
on The
like you
Inner Gamer.
forgot about what senses you were talking about.
I
Are
did.
you listening? Are you
Are you
tasting this
listening?
video?
Are you watching?
Are you touching it?
consuming it? Thinking about
Are
it?
you touching this video?
Head on over to theinnergamer.net for our full podcast episode for our weekly game impressions and top headlines of the week.
That's one of
Side of my
me doing an
face.
interview. There's one of all of us. We'll mix some cool stuff in there.
Things.
Brett's also right here.
Like this video, subscribe, keep up with all the latest video game news and opinions that you care about right here on The Inner Gamer.